Okay, it's been a minute. Let's have a chat. So, first of all, if you are new around here, hi, my name is Brittany. I am a homeschooling mom of four kids, high school down to kindergarten. I like to talk all things homeschool and homemaking. Full disclosure, this is the third time I am sitting down to film this video because I keep thinking I have it in my head how I want to film this, and it keeps coming out the wrong way. It's like not making a lot of sense. I think that I need to stop trying to do what I always do and just let it be a little bit more natural. So let's start with the elephant in the room. Why did I disappear for a couple of weeks here on YouTube? So I stepped away for a little bit to kind of recenter and kind of figure out what I'm doing. I had been trying to build out something on the side to something I thought God was calling me to do, and it kind of caved in a little bit on me. Over the past several months, I have had this feeling that something was just off. I think if you're a believer, you could probably relate to points in your life where this has happened, where you responded to something that you thought God was calling you to, and you just consistently have this feeling that something's not right. Like something feels very unsettled in your spirit, and you're walking things out, and it doesn't feel like it's actually fitting, and you get to this point where you're starting to realize that you are rushing ahead into something that God likely hasn't actually called you to. That's kind of where I've been lately in really the past month or two. I've had this feeling that I am not doing exactly what God's calling me to do. Everything felt like I was supposed to be doing something, but I wasn't sure what that was. So I was talking it over with one of my friends and kind of came to this realization that all of this effort that I've been putting into my writing and what I thought that God was calling me to do with writing and building out curriculum, I don't think that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Is it something that I love? Yes. Is it something I was very passionate about? Also, yes. But I started having this thought that kept rolling around in my head. I need to live in the reality that God has actually given. I kept finding myself living in this dream of what things could look like if I was homeschooling in the way that I always dreamed I would homeschool, if I was living out the career that I always thought that I would be doing, if I just had the home life that I always dreamed I would have. And so I started walking like that. I started living like that and homeschooling in a way that I always dreamed that I would homeschool and doing and taking steps to do my dream career. But nothing felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Everything felt like I was doing what I wasn't supposed to be doing. So then I started thinking, well, what if what I dreamed was more about what I wanted and less about what God wanted for me? And so then I started kind of wrestling with that. Like, what exactly is God calling me to? And there were a few things that I knew that God had actually called me to. He had called me into my marriage because I am married to my husband, and so I need to be faithful in my marriage and being a good wife and being a good helpmate. And he had called me to motherhood because I have children, and so therefore I needed to raise them and disciple them well. And I knew in my heart that he called me to homeschool. And so those are the three areas that I knew for sure. These are callings that he has placed on my life. And also I'm a believer. And so there are callings within, my church, the things that I need to do within my church. But specifically starting with my home life and then working out. So those were the ones that I was really sure about. And so then I started thinking, okay, there are also certain things that I believe that I'm supposed to be doing outside of the home that aren't like necessarily leaving the home, but career wise. I'm not going to get into the details of our family life, but there is the reality that I do have to start exploring work. Originally, I had thought that I was supposed to be writing or something of the like, and so that was where I had started going down, but again, that fell through. And so when talking it over with a friend, I got to this point of telling her I just kind of want to get a job, just do something that I could do from home and I could just work, like get up earlier than the kids and like I could try to fit it around and fit homeschooling around that. And so, long story short, I'm starting to explore different options that I could potentially do as a at working from home. And so I don't have anything lined up at this point. I have been looking and kind of working toward that, but that is kind of the end goal whenever it comes to a potential career option is just a job that I could work from home. So I have nothing actually in the works, though I am doing things and taking steps to make that process happen a little sooner, hopefully. But in the meantime, I am just trying to set up our homeschool and my home life to be able to say yes when God opens that door. So as I came to terms with that, the fact that I at some point will have something that is going to take a good chunk of my time during my day. Because I do believe that it's something that God has called me to. And if it is something that God has called me to, then He's going to provide the opportunity at some point. I just have to be patient and wait on Him and not try to rush it to fit my schedule. However, if that is true and that is what He is doing, I had to come to terms with that would affect our homeschool. So initially, I was thinking that maybe I could just continue on with what we were doing. I would just have to do some adaptation to it to make it work. And then I started sitting again with what I have for our homeschool. And in that area, am I pushing in a way that God has not chosen for me to be doing? For example, I love classical education. I love many aspects of Charlotte Mason. However, I have found I can consistently do them for a while, and then eventually I start to fatigue and I start to burn out. And I couldn't consistently give my kids the same level of education in August when we first start and in October and November whenever I'm starting to get a little bit more tired. And especially if I am putting other things into my day that are going to take more of my time. This had already become very apparent as I had really picked up how much I was writing before I made that transition into exploring other job opportunities. Even whenever I was sitting and writing and doing videos for YouTube and editing and trying to do all of the stuff, build curriculum out and post it on my website and all of this stuff it was taking several hours a day to do all of those things, but it still wasn't taking 8 hours a day, which is kind of where I'm going toward if I were to actually find some work from home job. And even doing that, I was finding that I was getting very fatigued and I was having a hard time keeping up with the homeschooling and the housework and being a good wife and a good friend. And I was having a hard time doing it. So I had started thinking, okay, I have accepted the reality of our life and what that means for me as far as work goes. Have I accepted the reality of our life and what that could potentially mean for our homeschool? So then I started evaluating. There's been a lot of thinking going on. I started evaluating why I was homeschooling. I was homeschooling because God had called me to homeschool. I wanted to give my children a solid Christian education. I wanted them to have a top tier education that would open every door that they could possibly imagine. Obviously, there are limitations that they're going to have based off of their own life. Just in general, we all have our own limitations, but I didn't want their education to be a limitation. Do you know what I mean? I wanted their education to set them up for whatever it is that God calls them to. So those are the main 2 things is that God called me to it. I wanted them to have a Christian education or 3 things, and then I wanted them to have an excellent education. And as I was listing out the reasons why I homeschooled, none of it was because I wanted them to have a classical education or a Charlotte Mason education or any type of education, or because I wanted to do all of these lists of things that you're supposed to do in those types of education, which made me start reconsidering what exactly we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it the way that we're doing it. A lot of it had to do with my pride in recognizing that my pride was going to get in the way of embracing the calling that God had actually placed in our life. So I'm going to go more in depth into it whenever I do an actual um, kind of an update on our curriculum and everything. But all of that to say is that I am no longer a classical Charlotte Mason homeschooler. I would say we are probably about 90% traditional, or we will be very, very soon. We are moving back into very traditional curriculum, lots of workbooks and stuff like that, all of the bad stuff that you're not supposed to do. And that is what I can be consistent in. And that is what I want for you to take from this video. One, there's two things. One, just because there are people on YouTube who have been homeschooling for 10 years does not mean that they are an expert. It is very easy to look at somebody who has been homeschooling for a very long time and think that they know everything and think that they are just experts because they have been doing it for a long time. But most of us are still figuring things out. We are all human, we are all fallible. We can make mistakes and we can make choices that, as time goes on, we start to realize are not actually good decisions for our family. Always take everything you watch on YouTube, you see on the internet with a grain of salt, realizing that these people are not actually experts. Just because they've done it for a while, it doesn't make them an expert. I am not an expert. If you subscribe to this channel thinking that I have all of the answers and I have it super figured out and I don't make mistakes and I never change anything, then I am sorry to disappoint you. That is not what you're going to find here. I am just a person. I am just a mom. I am still a work in progress. God is not finished with me yet. He has a lot that He is still carving away at. And two, the next thing is that you don't have to make your homeschool look like anything in particular. You can use textbooks if you want to use textbooks. If you don't have the time to homeschool in the way that Susie down the block homeschools, then you don't have to. And your kids are going to be just fine. If you are a work from home mom or a work outside of the home mom, and you have to use all of BJU video courses for their school, they will still be fine. If you're like me and you are in the process of trying to find a job, or you have a job and you're working from home and you need your kids to be a little bit more independent and you want to give them a traditional curriculum that gets them independent, that's okay too. Stick around. I'll tell you what we're doing next time and maybe you'll get some ideas. Or if you have the ability to be fully devoted to homeschool and you want to do a Charlotte Mason education or a classical education, and that is not only your dream curriculum, but your reality, and it lines up with all of your other callings and it makes you not neglect your other callings, then that's fantastic. But we have to not measure our homeschool by other people's standards and the realities that other people live in, because everybody has their own reality within their home. So make sure when you are picking curriculum, when you are setting up your homeschool, that you are living within your reality, not somebody else's reality. So what does that mean going forward? A couple of things. Things might change a little bit here on this channel strictly because I am still homeschooling. I am currently pursuing some courses that will help me to get my foot in the door somewhere. And so that's taking a lot of my time also. And I do still have everyday life that I have a house to run and all of that stuff. And so my videos will probably go back down to once a week. I will probably put, I don't know which day at this point, but I will probably be posting once a week instead of twice a week because that's what I have time for and it's what I can be consistent with. I am unsure if I am going to continue to pursue writing in any form. I would love to still pursue writing my history supplement for Story of the World, but my husband is very much encouraging me to continue to push in that direction just because he knows it's something that I love and I'm passionate about. But he wants me to do it for a hobby and something I have fun with. So if it ever stops being fun, then he wants me to stop doing it. I do still like building out my own printables and things like that. So I will probably still keep my website up and have stuff that comes up on the website occasionally. I may even move. I'm from an actual website over to an Etsy, just because it will be easier for me to maintain than trying to maintain a website. And so I will keep y'all posted on that. As of now, the website is still live. I'll have it linked in the description box, and I will continue to post stuff over there. Also, I am going to just move into and I'm going to share tips and things that I learn along the way, but I do not want this channel anymore to seem like I am some kind of an expert and I have all of the opinions and I do have all of the opinions, but I have all of the advice. So I will share the things that I am learning and that I have learned, but I am always going to caveat with I am not an expert and this is working for me. Maybe it'll work for you. Okay, so this felt very all over the place. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So if this video was, I don't know, encouraging, helpful, entertaining for you in any way, shape, or form, please make sure to give it a like. Subscribe if you have not, if you like this kind of content. And with all that being said, I will see you in the next one. Bye.